Now we go to our guest, Irina Zuckerman. She's a senior journalist joining us live from New York. Thank you, Irina, for joining us today. How credible are the concerns that he raised about FBI and Secret Service coordination failures, according to you?
Look, there were many mistakes made, apparently. To some extent, the criticism is about adjusting the concerns that the Secret Service did not react sufficiently. But to some extent, the events of that day became an opportunity for a loyalty test and a rallying cry. And criticizing security agencies has already been in vogue even before that happened. So this just gave more ammunition to Trump allies and to Trump himself to call for serious reforms, reorganizations of these agencies, and for replacement of a large number of personnel with loyalists. During the campaign, this was an opportunity to galvanize the U.S. base by portraying these security agencies as in a conspiratorial way, and also by calling them infiltrated by the political left, by the media, by the deep state, or otherwise unaccountable, incompetent, or even complicit in assorted disasters.
Thank you, Irina, for sharing that insight. You will stay with us as we stay on the topic. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio is in Malaysia for the ASEAN summit, where he is holding high-level talks with key regional leaders. Today, Rubio met with Japanese and Philippine counterparts as part of a broader push to reaffirm U.S. commitment to the Indo-Pacific. He's also scheduled to meet Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi on the sidelines of the summit. Marking their first face-to-face meeting, the visit comes amid rising trade tensions and U.S. tariffs on allies and rivals alike. Rubio is expected to press concerns over China's support for Russia and push Washington's case as the region's preferred partner. Now we go back to our guest discussion with Irina Zuckerman. She's a senior journalist. Thank you, Irina, for staying with us. How do you think how effective can Marco Rubio's visit be in reassuring Indo-Pacific allies of U.S.'s commitment, especially as they push for more tariffs?
The standpoint of whether this is the right forum to do so, it could be very effective if the administration is serious about its commitments. ASEAN has become increasingly an important forum for security discussions. However, we have seen that previous attempts to reassure allies have not fully succeeded. We have seen that Defense Secretary Hegseth, for instance, railed about U.S. Essentially becoming less of a pillar for regional security in the Indo-Pacific. There is, of course, a focus on operationalizing joint defense initiatives, which is something practical that could reassure and create an opportunity for strengthen relations in a practical ways, for refining rules of engagement in disputed waters, and expanding the logistical reach of the enhanced defense cooperation agreement with the Philippines in particular. All of those signs are welcomed by these countries. But on the other hand, the disputes over trade are casting a very serious shadows, and it's not possible to completely separate them from defense and security issues. First of all, part of the economic and trade agreements between these countries and the U.S. include defense discussions and components and import of important technology. Second, trade is actually in itself is an important part of the economy that allows countries to expand their defense budgets, and significant strain over imports into the United States could undermine that cooperation. And third, the general tone that has become extremely aggressive is sending the wrong message both to the allies and to the adversaries. The Trump administration is acting in a transactional way. It's trying to keep defense issues separate from trade issues and believes that tariffs are entirely distinct, but that is not how most countries view it, and any signs of dispute affect other possibilities of cooperation. I think unless there is a tone struck that essentially provides an opportunity to find a more productive, constructive, and friendly way to resolve these disputes, I don't think that this discussion will be as successful as the administration would like.
Thank you very much, Irina, for sharing that insight. You will stay with us as we stay on the topic. The U.S. State Department is moving ahead with a major reorganization plan approved after a Supreme Court ruling. Spokesperson Tammy Bruce confirmed the implementation has begun and will move quickly. The plan aims to streamline operations and align with President Trump's America First priorities. The reconstruction follows an executive order calling for mass layoffs across multiple federal agencies. The administration says it wants to cut bureaucracy and boost efficiency across government departments. Let's listen into what the U.S. State Department Press Secretary had to say.
And finally, as many of you would know, the department is also undertaking a historic reorganization. As announced by Secretary Rubio on April 22nd, to better align workforce activities and programs with the America First foreign policy priorities. The Supreme Court's recent near-unanimous decision allows the reorganization to commence and will ensure that the department moves at the speed of relevancy and restores the department to its roots of results-driven democracy. The plan, which has been approved by the Secretary and developed with extensive feedback from Congress and the workforce itself, is moving into implementation.
Now we move back to our guest discussion with Irina Zuckerman. Thank you, Irina, for staying with us. How might the State Department's reorganization impact U.S. diplomatic efforts and foreign policy execution amid calls to streamline and cut bureaucracy, according to you?
In many ways, it's more than just a simple bureaucratic overhaul. It represents a doctrinal shift which reflects the interests and views of the Trump administration. What we will see is a much more centralized State Department with much more ideological alignment towards the Trump administration and away from the civil servant class, and a lot more operational streamlining. The restructuring involves 5 major components. First is the consolidation of regional bureaus, which aims to eliminate perceived redundancy and enhance responsiveness to the White House priorities. A lot of people have concern about it because this reorganization could eliminate many distinct offices related to various developing countries, including many offices in Africa. Whether or not that will be the case remains to be seen. Second, offices related to human rights, democracy promotion, and civil society engagement are either being merged or dissolved altogether, which reflects a philosophical departure from liberal internationalism of the prior administrations towards much more transactional diplomacy, which we can expect more of under Trump. And any future administrations will have a hard time reorganizing it back because it would require resources and time to restructure again. Third, USAID is being integrated into the State Department and brought into closer alignment with the National Security Council and the rest of the State Department, reducing operational independence and making development aid a more explicit tool of leverage and, in general, a much smaller component of policy. Fourth, the Bureau of International Organizations is undergoing reorientation with less emphasis on UN consensus building and more focus on bilateral pressure and targeted multilateralism, again reflecting Trump's approach to foreign policy. In his first term, we saw shift away from multilateralism and much more towards bilateral relations. We're seeing much more of the same in his second term. Finally, the diplomatic security service and public diplomacy bureaus are being outfitted with new leadership and directives prioritizing counter-disinformation, cyber policy, and ideological competition with adversaries like China, Russia, and Iran. That should be interesting because at the same time the administration is eliminating many of those components from other functions of the State Department as well as other agencies and reducing cyber operation related to Russia in its enforcement bureaus such as the FBI. Moreover, many of the functionaries in various that work for the White House and in the administration seem to have an isolationist perspective or pro-Russian or somewhat China-oriented perspective. How that will work with this reorientation towards counter-disinformation against all those countries raises a lot of questions and concerns in the general public and critics and even among more hawkish Republicans as well.
Thank you very much, Irina, for joining us today and sharing your insight throughout our news.